two people walk into the same pitch meeting. Same slides, same numbers, word for word. One of them leaves with the funding. The other doesn't even get a follow-up call. Nobody in that room could tell you exactly why. They'd just say the first one had it. You've probably watched this happen. Maybe you've been on the losing end of it. Real talent lost, and you couldn't name what beat it. Stick around, because what actually won in that room isn't a mystery anymore. Researchers have measured it. Psychologists have a word for whatever it is: charisma. For a long time, the working theory was that you either had it or you didn't, the same way you either have blue eyes or you don't. New research says that's mostly wrong. Charisma breaks down into specific, learnable, testable signals, 3 of them in particular, and once you can see the pieces, you start noticing them everywhere, in a meeting, on a stage, in a friend group. None of this makes charisma less real. It makes it less mysterious, which is a different thing. A trait you're either born with or not gives you nothing to work with. A short list of measurable signals gives you somewhere to start. Start with the biggest myth, that charisma is fixed at birth. The word itself is old. It comes from a Greek term for gift of grace, used in early Christian writing to describe someone touched by the divine. A sociologist named Max Weber picked it up in the early 1900s and turned it into a technical term for a specific kind of authority. The kind followers grant a leader because of who that leader seems to be, not because of a title or a vote count. A century later, a researcher named John Antonakis decided to test whether that seeming could actually be taught. He took a group of MBA students and mid-level managers, almost none of them experienced public speakers, and had each one deliver a short speech on camera. Independent raters, with no idea what came next, scored them on trust, likability, and how charismatic they came across. Then Antonakis trained them in 12 specific, observable behaviors: metaphors, vivid stories, rhetorical questions, 3-part lists, moral conviction, stating an ambitious goal out loud, deliberate variation in vocal tone, facial expression that matched the words, purposeful gesture instead of fidgeting. The trainees studied footage of well-known speeches, picked apart what worked, and rehearsed the same moves on their own material. Then they gave their speeches again, on camera, to a fresh set of raters who'd never seen the first tape. The scores junked. Some speakers rated up to 60% higher than their first attempt. Picture one of those managers, someone who read as stiff and forgettable the first time, coming back with a single well-placed rhetorical question and a story with real stakes in it, good enough that a stranger watching cold would call it natural. Averaged across everyone, the effect was medium-sized. Not everyone turned into a headline speaker overnight, but the direction held, consistently, across a whole group of total beginners. Here's the part that matters if you're skeptical. This wasn't one polished coach working with hand-picked naturals. These were ordinary managers, the kind you'd find running a Tuesday status meeting, and the raters scoring the second round had no idea which speeches were before and which were after. That's the detail that kills the "you either have it or you don't" story. Training changed the actual footage enough that strangers reacted to it differently, on camera, weeks apart, with nothing to go on but what they saw. So the behaviors are learnable. But behavior alone doesn't explain why some rooms fall for it instantly, and others shrug. For that, you need to know what your brain is actually grading you on before you've said a word. For that, look at what your brain is grading before a single word is spoken. A psychologist named Susan Fiske, working with Amy Cuddy, spent years studying how people size each other up, across dozens of cultures, in under a second. Their finding, almost every snap judgment about another person collapses onto 2 dimensions. Warmth. Is this person friend or threat? Competence. Can they actually do what they claim? Score high on competence and low on warmth, and people respect you, maybe even fear you, but they don't warm to you. Picture the brilliant boss nobody wants to grab coffee with. Technically sharp, personally cold, respected, and quietly resented at the same time. Score high on warmth and low on competence, and people like you, but they don't follow you into anything that matters. The friendly coworker whose ideas never quite land, well liked, rarely trusted with anything that has real stakes. Neither one gets called magnetic. Charisma lives in the rare quadrant where both scores are high at once. competent enough that people trust the plan, warm enough that they trust the person running it. That combination is unusual enough that when your brain spots it, it registers as almost magnetic because most people you meet only clear one bar or the other. This isn't just a personality quirk, it has real consequences. The high competence, low warmth boss gets compliance, not loyalty, and loses people the moment a better offer shows up. The high warmth, low competence coworker gets invited to lunch and left off the project that actually matters. Neither one is doing anything wrong. They're just missing half the read, and because the calculation runs beneath conscious awareness, most people never realize which half they're missing, or that it's fixable at all. Here's the strange part. You don't consciously run this calculation. You clock warmth from someone's face and posture in a glance, and competence from how they carry themselves under pressure, and your brain has both scores back before you've decided whether you even like the person. That combination, warm and capable at once, is what those 12 tactics from Antonakis' study were actually building. A rhetorical question and a bit of vocal variation reads as confident. A story with real stakes in it reads as human. Stack both, and you've built the exact profile a stranger's brain is already scanning for. But knowing which two boxes to check still doesn't explain how the feeling itself gets into the room. There's a third piece, and it explains how a charismatic person changes a room's mood without saying a word. In the 1980s, a psychologist named Friedman, working with Ronald Riggio, built a test for something nobody had measured well before: how much of your inner state leaks out through your body, whether you mean it to or not. To test it, Friedman ran small groups of 3 strangers. 1 rated highly expressive, 2 rated flat and low expressive, and sat them facing each other in total silence for 2 minutes. Afterward, everyone reported their mood. The flat, unexpressive people's moods had shifted to match the expressive one. The expressive person's mood barely moved at all. Nobody had spoken a single word. The only channel available was posture, breathing, and facial micro-expression, the tiny leaks a body gives off when a feeling is running through it. Think about walking into a room where a manager is visibly stressed before a deadline. You feel your own shoulders tighten before anyone explains why. Now think about the rarer case. Someone walking into that same tense room loose and unhurried, and the tension in the room actually easing to match them. It's the same contagion, just running in the other direction. Think about the last time you sat through 2 versions of the same information, a flat monotone explanation and an animated one. The facts were identical. They didn't land the same way, because one of them was also transmitting a feeling underneath the words, and your body picked that up before your brain finished parsing the sentence. That's not manipulation. It's just a channel most people never learn to notice, let alone use on purpose. Friedman's expressiveness scale turned out to predict something specific. The people who scored highest on it were consistently rated as more charismatic by total strangers who'd never spoken to them. Strangers who had nothing to go on but 2 silent minutes in a room. Put the 3 pieces together, and the pitch meeting from the start of this video stops being a mystery. One presenter used learnable, rehearsed devices, the same 12 moves Antonakis measured. Those devices read as both warm and competent at once, the exact rare combination Fiske and Cuddy found people are built to notice within a glance. And underneath all of it, that presenter's own calm, confident state was leaking into the room non-verbally the whole time, the way Friedman's expressive subjects infected everyone around them without a word. It comes down to stacking 3 ordinary, measurable ingredients that most people never combine at once, not to being born special. A psychologist named Nalini Ambady even clocked how fast strangers form these judgments. In one of her studies, people who watched a silent video clip of a teacher for under 30 seconds predicted, with real accuracy, how that same teacher would be rated by students after an entire semester. That's the unsettling part. You don't get a long meeting to build a case for yourself. Ambady's subjects didn't hear a single word of lecture content, just 30 silent seconds of body language, and they still landed close to what an entire semester of students would eventually decide. Whatever combination of learnable behavior, perceived warmth and competence, and leaking mood you're putting out, it's legible almost immediately, long before you've made your actual argument. Whatever it is, your brain isn't guessing. It's reading fast, and it's usually right. So the next time someone in a room feels like they're just built different, look closer. Chances are they're running behaviors somebody could actually name, learnable ones, the kind Antonakis put a number on. And if you've ever walked out of a room wondering why you didn't land the way you wanted to, that's not a verdict on who you are. It's a short list of specific things you haven't practiced yet. Start small. Pick one tactic from that list and use it in your next real conversation, not a rehearsed one, and notice whether the room's temperature changes. That's the whole method. Not becoming a different person, just running behaviors that were always learnable on purpose instead of by accident. What would happen if you picked just one of them this week and tried it on purpose?